John Deere is thinning out on the Kansas wheat run, and the men who work it won't say why. Not the backyard operator with a quarter section and a 30-year-old machine. The custom crews, the road outfits that start in Texas and finish in the Dakotas by fall, cutting more ground in one summer than most farms touch in a decade. 10 years back, that convoy ran green from the first truck to the last. Ask a crew boss what changed, and he'll tell you it was one thing, and it was not the price. Ride the wheat run once and you never forget it. A line of combines and grain carts and semis rolling north through Liberal and Dodge City and Colby, chasing ripe wheat from the Texas Panhandle toward the Canadian line. These are the custom crews, and they cut for hire. A Kansas farmer with 2,000 acres of hard red winter wheat doesn't own a machine that costs as much as his house and sits idle 11 months a year. He hires the convoy when his wheat is ready, and it rolls on to the next county before the heads shatter. Watch what these outfits actually run on. A custom crew lives and dies on one number, and it is not the price of the machine. It is acres per day. They get paid by the acre. The wheat will not wait, and a ripe field and a hot, dry wind can start dropping grain on the ground inside 72 hours. The crew that cuts the most acres keeps the contract next year, and the crew whose combine sits down in the shop loses it. Nobody in farming feels a broken machine faster than a man paid by the acre with 1,000 miles still left to cut. And the window they chase is cruel. Winter wheat does not ripen on a schedule a man can plan around. It turns on the weather, a whole county coming ready inside the same few days. And once it is ready, the clock becomes a hot wind that shells the grain onto the dirt if you are a day late. 16-hour days, headlights out in the field at midnight, one eye always on a storm that could flatten the crop. In that world, a machine that stops is not an inconvenience. It is the difference between making the season and losing it. So when the green starts thinning out of that convoy, the first thing everybody reaches for is the price, because John Deere iron got brutally expensive, and the whole country knows it. But the price does not explain the custom crew. A road outfit running 3 or 4 combines flat out all summer is not buying on the sticker. It is buying on what the machine earns and what it costs to keep running across a season that never lets up. These are the most sophisticated equipment buyers in the country, and they will gladly pay more up front for iron that keeps cutting when the wind turns. Price is the answer for the 40-acre man. It is not the answer for the convoy. Subscribe if you think loyalty ought to run both ways, between a company and the men who made it what it is. That is the whole reason this channel exists. Now, back to the wheat run. Rule out the next easy answer too. It is not that John Deere forgot how to build a combine. The X9 is one of the highest capacity combines Deere has ever put in a field, and on a good day and good wheat, it moves an astonishing amount of grain. The crews will tell you that themselves. So whatever is pulling them away, it is not that the green machine cannot cut. That throws out the 2 explanations everybody starts with. Not the price, and not the raw capacity. That leaves the question the crew boss was pointing at. The one thing, and it sits somewhere most people never think to look. Walk up to a crew boss at a truck stop outside Dodge City and ask him straight, and he gets careful, because the answer sounds like disloyalty, and these are loyal men. He talks around it. He tells you the new machines are marvels, which is true, and the dealer is good people, which is usually true. And then he says the thing he actually means, that the machine has gotten complicated in a direction that has nothing to do with cutting wheat, and that when it stops out here, 1,000 miles from home, it stops in a way he cannot argue with and cannot always fix himself. He will not name what he is switching to. That part you have to go find. And once you start looking, the pattern is everywhere on the run and nowhere in a press release. The big western Kansas outfits, the ones cutting for the same families every June going back to their fathers, quietly running a different color of combine than they ran a decade ago. The equipment lots around Garden City and Great Bend carrying machines that were not there before. The harvest videos the crews film and post themselves, 10 and 12 combines wide, and if you actually watch the color in the field, the green is not the majority the way it used to be. Nobody announced any of it. The most demanding harvesters in North America simply started voting with the one thing they cannot afford to get wrong, and the vote is going the other way. So follow the money to the top of the company, because a shift this big shows up in the numbers eventually, and it just did. This spring, John Deere reported that its biggest division, the one that builds the combines and the big tractors, saw sales fall about 14% in a single quarter against the year before. Operating profit in that same division did not fall 14%. It fell close to 40%. The most profitable engine in the entire company got cut nearly in half in 90 days. Quick thing before we go on. We put the 2-page version of all this on one sheet you can read right in the cab, free, no email and no sign-up, just the checklist, and the link is in the description. Pin it above the bench. Now a company can lose a quarter and be fine, and Deere is an American giant that will still be selling machines long after all of us are gone. But a number like that is a symptom, and the crews on the wheat run were the fever chart nobody in the boardroom was reading. Because that division is not bleeding since Deere forgot how to build iron. It is bleeding because the company spent the last 15 years aiming itself at a different business than harvesting. The pitch to Wall Street slowly stopped being combines and started being subscriptions. Precision farming, data, software you log into by the season, the recurring kind of money that makes an investor lean forward. Deere has sold more than 20,000 of those precision packages, and on a spreadsheet in Moline it all looks like the future. And think about what a breakdown means for a crew 1,000 miles from home. A farmer who breaks down calls the dealer he has known for 30 years, the one 20 minutes down the road. A custom crew breaks down in a county it has never worked, on a machine whose nearest specialist might be 3 states away. On the one weekend the whole region is cutting at once, and every service truck is already spoken for. For an outfit like that, a machine it can keep running with its own hands, and a company that built its network around the harvest instead of around a boardroom map, is not a luxury. It is the whole ballgame. Because a custom crew does not harvest data. It harvests wheat, on a deadline, in the dust, and it needs a machine built around one obsession, which is to keep the header moving and never stop. When a company falls in love with the recurring revenue on the screen is what gets the best engineering attention. More that can go wrong between the grain and the ground. More that routes through software the operator does not control, and cannot reset at 2 in the morning in a field outside haze. The green machine did not get worse at cutting. It got busy being something other than a cutting machine, and the men whose whole living is the cut were the first to feel the company look somewhere else. And that is the quiet betrayal underneath the whole thing. These crews were the best free advertising John Deere ever had. 10 combines running green down a Kansas highway, filmed and posted and watched by every wheat farmer in the country. 3 generations of the most respected operators alive, staking their season on that color. You could not buy proof like that, and the company, chasing a subscription number in a boardroom, let it walk off. None of it came from a decision anybody actually signed. It leaked away in 1,000 small choices that all pointed the machine away from the field and toward the screen. If you have spent any time around people who use tools to make a living, you already know how this story ends, because it has happened in every trade there is. The professional always switches first, not the hobbyist, not the weekend guy, but the person whose paycheck depends on the tool never letting him down. He feels a decline years before it ever shows up on a sales chart, because he is the one holding the thing at the exact moment it fails. And here is why that matters far beyond the wheat run. Every wheat farmer in the country watches these crews. They are the reference standard, the guys who have run every machine in every condition and have no reason on earth to lie about any of them. When a farmer with one combine is deciding what to buy next, he does not read a brochure. He looks at what the crew that cut his neighbor's field was running, how hard it ran, and whether it ever sat broken at the end of the row. And that is what makes the custom convoy so dangerous for Deere to lose. These crews are the jury the whole rest of the market is waiting to hear from, and the verdict is already being written in the field. Walk onto any serious job site in America, and look at what is in the good tradesman's truck. 20 years ago, the electricians and the plumbers and the framers all ran the same yellow drills as everybody else, the brand you grabbed at the big box store on a Saturday. Walk that same site today, and the boxes are red. Milwaukee, a brand the casual buyer barely thought about, that got obsessive about the person who runs a drill 400 times a day, built the tool heavier and tougher and exactly for the trade, and quietly took the professional right out from under the giant that used to own him. The homeowner was the last to notice. The pro switched first, because the pro pays for downtime in cash. That is exactly what is happening on the wheat run, one custom crew at a time. The heaviest users of a combine anywhere on the continent, the outfits that put more hours on a machine in 4 months than a farmer puts on in 5 years, are doing what heavy professional users always do. They are leaving quietly, ahead of everyone, for the machine built by the company that never once stopped being obsessed with the cut. And when the professionals leave first, the The rest of the market is usually 3 or 4 years behind them and does not know it yet. There is a tell that backs this up. The one number in this whole business nobody can spin, which is what the used machines bring. When farmers truly want a machine, the good used ones climb at auction, because everybody wants in, and nobody is selling. The clean, low-hour green combines coming off the big crews are not doing that, and the outfits letting them go are not buying more green. Men do not walk away from the tool they still believe in. They walk when they have already decided where they are going next. Picture the thing that started all of this. A single ribbon of combines, a mile of them nose to tail, rolling north out of Texas in the last week of May, and not stopping until the cold chases them out of North Dakota in the fall. For most of a century, that ribbon was John Deere green front to back, and there was no prouder sight in American farming, worth more than any ad the company ever ran. Now watch that same ribbon roll by outside Salina, and look at the colors. There is still plenty of green in it. But green is not the whole ribbon anymore, not close, and the machines breaking it up are the ones pulling ahead in the standing wheat, run by the crews who used to bleed green the hardest. And that is the signal worth trusting, more than any figure a company reads off a slide. A custom crew is the coldest, most honest buyer in agriculture. It has no loyalty it can afford, no nostalgia, no room to be wrong, and no reason to switch colors except that the switch pays. When that buyer moves early, with its own money, on the machine it bets its whole year on, it is telling you something the sales charts will not catch for years. The convoy has already decided. All that is left is to say out loud what it decided and who it decided for. So here is the company the wheat run has been choosing, the one we have kept out of this the whole way through, because the name is the least interesting thing about it. It is called Claas, an independent family company out of Germany, founded back in 1913, and more than 100 years later, still owned and run by the same family. Not a division of anybody, not answerable to a quarterly call in Moline. Claas never spread itself across 40 other businesses. It built harvesting machines. That is the whole company. For more than a century, while nearly everyone else was busy becoming a conglomerate, this one family kept its obsession aimed at a single question, which is how to get a crop out of a field faster and cleaner than anyone alive. The machine the crews are switching to is the Lexion, and here is the part that ought to end the argument. It is not shipped in from across an ocean as some foreign curiosity. The Lexion the American crews run has been built in Omaha, Nebraska for the better part of 30 years, by American workers, in the middle of the same wheat country it cuts, and the company just broke ground on a new research center right there in Nebraska, because you do not build a research center in a country you are planning to leave. The people who call this a foreign brand stealing the harvest have never once checked where it is actually bolted together, right there in the middle of the country, a single day's drive from the run itself. And that is the one thing the crew boss would not name at the truck stop. It was never the price, and it was never the horsepower. It was that somewhere out there a family company had spent 100 years staying obsessed with the exact thing his whole life is built on, keeping the header in the crop and never, ever stopping, while the company he grew up loyal to slowly turned its best attention somewhere else. He did not switch because he stopped being a John Deere man. He switched because the machine that was still completely entirely about the harvest was not the green one anymore, and a man who is paid by the acre cannot afford to be sentimental about that. He follows the cut, and Claas is not renting counter space and hoping anymore. It is planting its own stores now, company-owned, full service, dropping them straight into the grain belt in towns across Iowa and the Dakotas, right where the harvest lives. The crews asked for the machine first. The stores are following the crews. That is the order it always runs in. The people who work the hardest choose, and everything else, the dealers, the parts, the neighbor leaning on the fence, comes along behind them. So the next time you are out on a Kansas highway in July, and that convoy comes over the rise, look hard at the colors, and know you are not imagining it, and you were never crazy for noticing. The green is thinning because the people who cut for a living felt the company's attention drift, and they did the coldest, most rational thing a professional ever does. They followed the machine that still cared about the only thing they do. You saw it before the sales charts did. The wheat run has always been the truest signal in American farming, and right now it is pointing away from green. Subscribe if you would rather watch this play out from the seat of the machine than read about it after the whole convoy has already changed color. The full manual is called the Equipment Freedom Manual. 21 systems, $39, links below if you want it.